back full time to work in what, June 2020. I haven't really done anything with this much longer. The only
Well,
thing I did do is I recommended people who aren't going to spend more money. I used to record listening tests, and so they actually bought board games and off the top of their budget. Luckily, my school has a shit ton of money if they can just because like departmental spending. This is a really interesting conversation, by the way. At the end of the year, if you don't spend your budget, then the university thinks like, oh, they don't need that much money next year. So what they'll end up doing is like, oh shit, we have like a surplus of $2,000, let's say. Let's
well,
buy a couple new
hello,
iPads.
and
Let's
welcome to
oh,
Pixel Pints.
damn it. I never know.
Yeah, I always
The
catch you guys
ninja.
off guard. It's what I do. It's what I do best. We are the only global gaming podcast that covers two great things. This is good beer and video games. I'm your host, Mitch. McWumble was supposed to be here. We miss you, McWumble. Uh, but I am joined by a esteemed panel of people. Yeah, you finally got the joke. There you go. Okay. For our
Sorry.
audio listeners, Evan
Took too
has a
long.
giant sign say, I miss you, McWumble, behind him. Um, but yes, you have me, Mitch, your gracious host, for this week's episode where we take you around the news of video games along with talking about beer. I'm joined by some great people. One who made these beautiful graphics. If you actually take the time to watch our podcast instead of listening to our podcast, the wonderful Rafa has joined us.
Hey, how's it going?
That's my question for you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm starting the day early, trying to be productive. And while I'm at it, just join you, beautiful folks, and discuss the latest news and gossips in the video game industry.
Now, do you want to share? I know last week we said I made a guess of how many hours you've spent on GTA Online, and you actually sent me the receipts. Can you tell me how many hours it was?
Yeah, so upon investigating, I've only spent so in GTA Online like 648 hours. I put it together across all the platforms that it released on, which doesn't sound like much uh, when you think how much I'm talking about this game. Yeah, and another thing of interest, it was how many hours I put into Valhalla, which I forgot. Do you have any
I think it was
idea how much?
225 or something like that. It was in the 200 marks, I swear. Or was it more than that?
No, I think it was less actually.
Was it
I don't
less?
think I. Yeah, so that was 143,
143. Yep.
143, yeah. Yeah. And as I mentioned there, there's one free DLC I didn't touch, which is like a roguelite component they added to the game, but I just couldn't. That was too much even for me.
Ah, that's okay. What was my guess? Didn't I say like 1,000?
So yeah, it sounded like you said like 1,000 or 2,000, like that would be a great assumption, but I think that could have been doable if I'm a solo player. So if I had like a crew of people, like organizing every evening to play, then maybe, but I'm just playing when like I'm playing for around 1 or 2 months after they add a new considerable update to the game, and then I move on to something else.
Okay, that's good to know. That's a. I like being a good 300 and was that 352 hours off. I got over 60%. I'm solid. I
Yeah.
I did not play Prices Right rules. Anyway, speaking of Prices Right, I don't know why that's a segue to Evan, but it is Evan all the way on the other side of Japan, who likes to get his mic at something what we call Prices Right prices. I don't know. I'm trying. I'm trying to go with the Prices Right here. I don't know why. How you doing?
You know what, Mitch, it was a really good segue because the price is right. I just ordered the packaged version of Metroid Prime,
Oh, here I thought you were
And
going to say Tears of the Kingdom, which I was going to be The Price is Wrong.
BITCH, Happy Gilmore, one of my favorite dumb movies of all time. So yeah, it's like $30, about $30 here, which is nice. Nintendo, a $30 game.
We're paying
That's
$40
insane.
in the States. You know that?
I'm just doing conversion rates because
Uh,
the dollar is so strong. It should be fair to me to say basically that the yen is usually not in times like these about 108 yen to the dollar. So I'm getting it for like $38, which is a good price.
okay.
I'm doing fine. This is my first Saturday off in a long time. So I work Saturdays usually, so I still have a headache from last night. I got a bit too excited. Um, I was at school all day checking English tests. It was our high school entrance exam, so I got off late. Then I went out with Her Majesty and got a bit too carried away. Yeah, so I'm what time is it? It's 5:18, so this will make my headache go away. I still have a headache from last night, and it's 5 o'clock. It'll go away.
You
I'm
know, the
doing
one
okay.
thing I'm shocked, though, Evan, is I didn't know you're a Persona 5 character. I didn't know you're still in high school taking exams.
Oh, dude, let me tell you, I think I did well on that English exam. I'm really confident that I aced that English exam. Let me tell you. We get the see if I enter school. I keep regressing. So I'm a teacher, and then technically a university student, and now I'm a high school student. I mean, when is it gonna end? It's like, what am I, Benjamin Button? Does that make any sense?
That is makes sense. Yeah, you're
Anyways.
going slowly versus in time. Well, if you don't know who we are a group of people that talk about good beer and video games. We stream live here on twitch.tv/pixelpints every single weekend. If you want to know when we go live, you can follow us on Twitter at pixel_pints. Or if you go on Pixel Pints Pod on Instagram, you can see cool pictures of stuff, but nothing about when we post when we go live. That's all Twitter, which you can check out on the graphic below. Hint, hint, wink, wink. And we also archive all these episodes on YouTube and on podcasting services around the globe. All right, gentlemen, it is time for the notorious beer talk. Now, it is 12:19 in the morning here. I went out earlier tonight, so I am not drinking more. For the safety of please drink responsibly, I will not be drinking more. I will be drinking Alani because I have a episode of a TV show to watch after this, gentlemen, and so I need to be awake.
Ooh, that's right. I keep forgetting we get it early.
Yeah. Thank you, Super Bowl. Cheers. Super Bowl.
Go Eagles.
I'm go Rihanna. I don't want either team. This is actually the first Super Bowl I'm disinterested in. Anyway, beer talk. Okay. Evan, what are you drinking? I know you're drinking something. You're always drinking something.
Yeah. But by the way, we've never recorded this for the listeners, we've never recorded this during one of my mornings. That is it's either 5 p.m. or midnight.
Yeah.
So on a Saturday. So please, like, Jesus, this guy's always drinking. It's the weekend. And I get one day. I get 1 day to drink because I work 6 days a week. So I'm drinking my regular, my Kirin Ichiban Shibori, but I am also. So last night, Her Majesty's not going to be here for Valentine's Day. She's leaving to Tokyo for several days tomorrow, but she did get me some early Valentine's Day presents. Because in Japan, the woman gives her partner the male
interesting
chocolate, apparently, and the guy doesn't
have to do anything.
Give anything. Okay, I'll explain. So apparently, it was a mistranslation way back when, where they mistranslated instead of like the guy giving the girl chocolate, someone had mistranslated it as the girl gives the guy chocolate, and then it just became the tradition in Japan on Valentine's Day. The girl get guy's chocolate, and it can just be coworkers that have helped you out. It's not necessarily a romantic thing, although I guess it's similar to the States. However, they developed and this is just Japanese companies coming up with complete BS, but that's also what Valentine's Day is in the West as well. A month after Valentine's Day is a day called White Day, where the male has to reciprocate what to the female that gave them the chocolate, but it has to be like 20% more expensive. So it doesn't matter. They get screwed no matter what.
I feel like in America we should have that holiday.
Right?
Like, you know,
Right.
I get my partner something. They need to get me something back
me.
now.
Right. 20% more. To
Yeah,
save those
20%
receipts.
more, please. So if I give them a video game, that's what, $60 from Nintendo. I expect Tears of the Kingdom in return.
Oh man, I was about to make that joke. Nice one. Which we will probably be talking about later.
Sorry,
So
this joke is gonna go all day today.
right. We don't. I think White Day is a really dumb idea. So we just do Valentine's Day like a normal couple, and we get each other something, or we go out to dinner. But because we can't do that, she gave me an early one, so I got to think about what to do when she gets back from Tokyo. She got me. So Hitachino is a beer you can actually purchase in overseas. I believe it's sold in the UK, and I've purchased it in Wisconsin before. It's this little cool owl guy. Uh, Hitachino, I believe. Where is it from? Nakanishi, Ibaraki, Japan. And they brew a lot of really nice beers. This is a flower session. It just says flower session. Well, what kind of beer is it? Usually you would say flower session IPA. Flower session, insert style here. But this is what it reads. A pinkish beer inspired by bouquet brewed with the flowery floral aroma of hops and rose tea. The roselle harvested in local Ibaraki. Enjoy the tartness and freshness of flower bouquet with lightly drinkable flavor.
Interesting.
Whatever that means. So, jeez, I can't even. All right. I'll do a baby pour.
Half of the Valentine's gift was you trying to open the bottle.
Yeah. I think I cut my hand.
Oh, seriously?
No, I think I'm safe. It got my calluses on my hands. So yeah, it does pour light red.
Wow,
or
that's
light
light
pink
red.
rather. I don't like gimmicky beers. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be, but oh, that it smells very yeah, it does smell like tea a little bit, like very very bitter aroma of tea. What did it say was on here? Rose tea. Doesn't smell sweet at all. I thought it was going to be way more sweet. Oh, it's coming through a little bit peachy. I don't know. It's is she home? She can hear me trash. I think years ago I trashed one of the beers she bought me on the. I said it tasted like dirt, and she was in the other room. She's like, "Hey," I'm like, "Hey, stop listening to the podcast." This is interesting. It smells like a tea bag, which is weird. You know how tea bag itself is a bit overwhelming
Yeah.
if you like held it right up to your nose? It smells as if I'm holding a tea bag up to my nose. It's very very light, and it does kind of taste like tea. It doesn't really taste like beer. I don't know about this one. 4%. Don't even know what the style is.
Fermented tea.
Yeah. Barley, hops, rose, hibiscus. It's okay. I'd have exactly one of those. Someone who likes a bit more like floral aroma beers might like this better. So yeah, I don't know. That wasn't very exciting. I apologize. Let's move on.
Rafa, do you have any beer on you at the moment?
Not at this hour in the day,
Oh, that's right.
but
You had the morning. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, but for a couple months, due to some medication, I couldn't drink, and now I'm catching up to speed on that. And yesterday evening, so I hope that counts. I had one of these, which is it's a Thatcher's Blood Orange flavored cider. which
Ooh.
is really, really good. I don't know if you guys ever had one. I don't know if it's in the States or in Japan.
I, I-
But
I've had that. I've had some ciders in the UK. I know cider's a big thing in the UK. Cider's not a big thing in the States.
Yeah, it's not so
It's
yeah,
not. It's
much.
good. It's good though. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just it's not common. I never really. Um,
and
when I went to the UK, I saw it everywhere, and it's good. I like it.
yeah, there are tons of ciders here, but for like it was only last year when I found out about Thatcher's, which is a crime because everyone here like that's their for some that's their go-to cider, you know.
Mm.
That's really popular. And this one, like I've had multiple flavors from them since the day I found out the brand. Really, really good. Really good. Of course it's very fruity. It's one of those fruity ciders. It's not one of those, you know, like traditional flavored ciders, which I like those too. Um, but this tastes really, really nice. I could have so many of them. Um, yeah, and I missed it. I missed it, and that's what I had recently. So I think it still counts because still must be in my bloodstream.
Hey, it
Yeah.
works. Whatever works for you. All right, we're gonna move on, and that is talking about Nintendo. They had a giant. I say giant because usually their directs are like 20 minutes. This one was 44 minutes or something like that. And there's a lot of drama within a direct, but this one probably had the most drama of them all. So let's get right to it. There is a bunch of information, but to kind of cut it down, let's just go through the the big things, and then we'll do a tiny everything else for 20 seconds. As Evan wipes the camera in front of his face. So we have 2 expansions for Splatoon 3 coming. And it's weird. They're not calling it the weird thing is like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. They're calling these not just like with Splatoon, but for like all their DLC, they're calling them waves, which is very different. Like different phrasing. I don't know how I feel about that phrasing of like wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, but they have more Splatfests and a new story set in the area that seems like depraved of all color, which is interesting. How was your feeling on Splatoon 3? Or just Splatoon in general?
When it first came out, I think it was on Wii U, right? Yeah, it was
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Wii
yeah,
U,
yeah,
and
the original.
yeah,
Yep.
I was like, wow, this is such an interesting idea. Like you can paint all these maps, and it was quite unique at that time. But since I missed the boat then, I never thought about it again. So I know it's important to people, and it still looks fun. I'm looking at it now, what they announced, and in Wave 2 they are going to have like a single player campaign, which that may be up my alley. I know they also have some like solo challenges. I would be all for it if they ever made a spin-off where it's like platforming, like the Blob.
Mm.
Um, you know those games, which is funny because I think not way before, like, but eh, before I got my Series S, which is an like I haven't owned an Xbox in quite some time. My friend got actually I got him Xbox One X for his birthday, and I hooked him up with Game Pass, and I went to him to set his console up, and I got to go for the Game Pass library, and there was the Blob. I tried that, and surprisingly, really good game. So this could totally work. Like looking at that, this could totally work in single player. So I'm really looking forward to that single player DLC and see what they do. If it's something significant for me to actually consider buying it, or maybe they do. Sometimes they do this where they make something stand alone. Yeah, that could be a good strategy to get people into Splatoon.
Yeah, for some reason, I mean, I've been a big Splatoon fan for a while now. Like I've since the first two. I technically didn't own the first one. My roommate did back in the day, and he got me hooked on it. And I played the second one for him for a long time. I did buy the third one, and for some reason, I have not gone back to play it. And it feels too much of the same. Not enough changed. I feel like it was more a DLC expansion pack as the third game than it really was a brand new title, in my opinion. Just wasn't enough new. Yeah, you could have new weapons, but like the concept of the game didn't really change. It almost to me felt like Madden. It was like it's just a small iteration, but not enough to like change the game. And I do like it is interesting to see them finally do a level that's like depraved of color. But it seems to me as if it's kind of past its prime. And also I remember the game Unfinished Swan, which kind of like doesn't seem like this game is doing that, which I think Unfinished Swan was way more interesting in the way they deprived color and then you add color to the world. Whereas this one just means like it just looks like a level that doesn't have color and then you just throw your color on there and whatever. So it left me uninspired and uninterested in general. But Evan, you got any thoughts on Splatoon before we move on?
No, it's just something that
I know
switching
some.
out one camera for the other.
I know something you're interested. That's Advance Wars 1+2.
I don't like strategy games.
That's right.
never
This is
played-
an Erebus Jones. Where in the heck is Dan and Erebus Jones? They would be screaming on their hilltops right now, right?
Yeah, we're not going to be able to give Advanced Wars its deserved portion of the podcast. What about you, Rafa? Do you have anything to say about that? I remember these games coming out in the GBA. They looked
Which
cool. I love the pixel art. It's the modern kind of military version of a Fire Emblem. But I don't know. I've just never been interested in that type of game, unfortunately.
So the first time I saw it, I thought it was a nice concept. I'm actually interested in that. It's quite like simple strategy game. I'm sure there's some depth to it, but it looks inviting, so I'm considering getting that at some point. Um, yeah, that's up my alley. Like whereas something like XCOM, that feels a bit overwhelming for me. I'm sure I could get the hang of it, you know. But I feel that it would be much easier for me if that was an IP I was more interested in, you know. Um,
It does have a unique art style, I'll give it that, and it does seem something intriguing and interesting. I've heard how difficult it can be, which I think offers variety for players. So I'll be interested to see. It's not any of our cup of teas, unfortunately, for any of those fans out there. But I mean, this one has been on hold for over a year now, and so it's nice to it finally actually is getting a release date. So
was it because of the war, or
yeah, because
was that a rumor?
no, I believe that was because they felt as if it wasn't the right time to release that title because the enemy team depiction is similar to Russian, and so it wouldn't look good optics wise to blow up Russians basically, or like not Russians but like look like Russians type thing. But
It still fits the narrative today, so
yeah,
Yeah, it basically the enemy was like a Russian stand-in, and they
Exactly.
thought maybe we'll sit on this.
yeah.
And then
Yeah,
the war kept going on, and
But now we got to put
I
it
think
out.
it's just at the point where like, you know what, let's put it out. I think there's enough separation between an animated war, like pixel style kind of like army, top down like kind of army game, separating it from real life in this way. So I don't know. I think people seem to be okay with it. No one's saying it's
seriously, I
insensitive at this
also
point.
wonder if they made any changes to the writing and anything, like tone it a bit down, although they didn't change the.
I feel
I wonder.
It's also
I feel like they
It's also full
wouldn't
price.
because it is technically a remake slash remaster of former titles. So I don't think they would do any extra writing on it or changing of
Okay.
writing.
Yeah, Sounds about right. As I said, it's also full priced. I mean, not that it could deserve it, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
I
but
don't know
yeah,
about that, but yeah.
For them
yeah,
strategy people, it's worth every penny.
yeah, sure. Like
Mo-
the
mo-
price, like the price is always right for a group of people, so
sure.
we can't really complain.
And reboot
More on
camp
that
is a
later.
nice subtitle.
That's true. That is a nice subtitle. Moving on to a more interesting story. Let's get to this one. Nintendo Switch Online is getting Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games. Now, they already have N64 games on the platform, NES and and is it SNES as well? They have a lot of old platforms going to the Nintendo Switch Online platform, which is fascinating. So for the Game Boy Pocket, and Game Boy Color titles, the launch titles will include Tetris, Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX, Gargoyle's Quest, Game & Watch Gallery 3, Alone in the Dark, and the New Nightmare, Metroid 2, Return of Samus, Wario Land 3, and Kirby Dream Land. There's also other tease titles, but we're not going to go over those. But also the Game Boy Advance games include Super Mario Bros. 3, Wario War Inc. Mega Micro Game, Kyuin, Mario Kart. Did I say it right?
It doesn't matter. It's not important. I don't think it ever came out.
Oh, okay. And then Mario Kart Super Circuit, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, The Legend of Zelda Minish Camp, something like that. And there's other games coming out in the forefront. But the fact that you get now N64 games, you get Game Boy Advance games, you get Game Boy Color games, you get NES games. Like that platform, and you don't pay a lot for that platform too. It was it like $5 a year? Is this starting to become like
Mm,
more valuable than like a Game Pass? Or is it 20 bucks
Uh,
a year? I think it's 20
it's
bucks a
it's
year.
20. It's 20, but here's the thing, something that I didn't understand. It was the Game Boy Advance locked for the more expensive subscription, the one with N64 games and the other DLCs that are free for that, because you know they have two tiers.
Oh, that's
So
right. That's a good
so it's
point.
um pass something. I forgot. Nintendo Switch Online. I should
Yeah,
be knowing these
GBA is
things.
locked off in the extra.
Expansion pass. Yeah.
Expansion
So
pass.
Yeah.
expansion pass. Yeah. Which is like, feels weird because I had the impression that at first they are going to leave all the 2D consoles for the Nintendo Switch Online subscription, and everything that they are going to emulate on the Switch, that's going to be 3D, like GameCube games. Um, and that's it. Oh, no, no, GameCube and Nintendo 64, I think. Yeah. Those would go on expansion pass. That would have made sense. But actually they seem to be intending to, I don't know, like also split the generations between devices that are more capable within their category. So it's a bit all over the place. Um,
So for the record, just to be correct, so the $20 a year membership gives you NES games, online play, chat with your friends, extra points. The expansion pass, which is $50 a year, there's no monthly option for the expansion pack. Sorry, that gives you the N64 games and then some DLCs for future titles, and Sega Genesis games. What is interesting about that is if you think about it, it's actually cheaper than a year of Game Pass.
but not that much value. Of course, depending on what you're looking at. Um,
I was gonna say, like, are you getting more value because, like, I mean, I don't know when you're looking at the titles, but it seems like same quality titles you're getting out of it, out of the mix for backlog stuff, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a it's a steal for someone who's into retro games, but that doesn't isn't like a retro gamer in the sense where they have all of the original systems and have CRT TVs hooked up and want to play everything exactly as it should be played. What person in that Venn diagram is that? I'm not sure. But if you're not into any like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and now Game Boy for $20, and then some older stuff like who wants to go back and play N64 games?
You can
It's
play
cheap.
GoldenEye,
I just
Evan. You can play GoldenEye. What are you
yeah,
talking about?
yeah, I'm sure it holds up very well as most N64 games do. It's not something that interests me. I before they added the expansion pack that jumped the price from $20 to $50, I did 1 year of it, and I remember at that time, and this is some like I like retro games. That's my it's something I've always been interested in. That's what I grew up as with Nintendo. So I did a year. And I remember the year that I did it, it must have been 2019 because I believe it came out at September 2018. So it's already 4 years old at this point, Switch Online. I was like, I'm going to go through all the old Mario games this year. I didn't. I dabbled in several of them and then I gave up. So I don't know. I It's still cheap, I guess. But how much does that move the needle? Like, oh, GBA, that's it. I'm paying that extra $30. Here we go.
The question
So I
is,
can
did it
play.
move the needle for you, Evan?
No.
Yeah, I mean, if you like, if you're I don't know, a Nintendo kid and you had all these platforms and you have like tremendous nostalgia for not only for these consoles but for most of the titles they are making available through these things, and like that's a no-brainer. Like, wow. But also, I too have nostalgia for a lot of titles from my childhood, but the thought of actually going back and spending full time with them again, I could play them for a few hours, because I always do that. Oh, I should replay that thing, and then I play it for like 5, 10 hours, and something else catches my attention, and I
Yeah.
move to that, and it's a shame. So, uh, if it's not a platinum that I could be earning from that, I just abandon it completely. So yeah, and I know we're like we're not supposed to promote this type of stuff on YouTube or anything, so I won't say much, but there are other ways of enjoying these titles. Like you sort of feel ripped off. Yeah, like um but then again, you might be someone who just wants to have like a dedicated device for this type of stuff, only one device. You don't want to mix it up with your smartphone, with other platforms. You're not the gadgety person that owns all sorts of platforms. So I get that. That there are there are definitely like there's definitely a segment of that audience that fits the description, and this is just for them. I do have to say that the front end is really nice. It's clicky. You see those beautiful covers up there. They are so inviting. You want to get into those games. Like some because I had it for a while, and I played games on that. Um, they feel it's weird. They feel sturdy. They feel sturdy. They feel like they took the time to they didn't, but they feel polished because they are there. It just the service adds a perceived quality about them. And yeah, it's a premium experience. But then again, I've never had a GBA game crush on me on an emulator. Never, that never happened. So um, yeah,
That makes sense. Yeah, I don't think it moves the needle either. I was just trying to be devil's advocate. I don't really think it's the matches the value of a Game Pass. But I do think with them adding more to their back catalog, they are adding more value because that is what most people love from Nintendo is its back catalog. So if they can start building more of the back catalog, like I think they would have gotten more hits if they had like a Pokemon game in there, like an original Pokemon game, um,
Yeah.
or something like
The
that.
the drip feed is the drip feed is ridiculous though. Like they do a direct 4 years after Switch Online comes out, and they add Game Boy and Game Boy Advance 4 years later. Like I get drip feed, you can't just throw everything at them at once, and
Oh, you
you
can.
add stuff.
They choose
I
not
mean, you
to.
can, but yeah, like they're doing this is like bare minimum stuff to me. I don't know.
Yeah, look at how the pace they are updating PlayStation Plus Premium with that's so slow. Uh, there are games that interest me. Like it's crazy that we're having like some of my most favorite PSP titles in there. I'm absolutely loving the fact that I can buy those individually. You know, that, that's great. Um, and they should allow that on Switch as well. I would be willing to pay more than what would be fair for an individual title in those collections. Like I can understand it's a tax because they also expect to make money off of that subscription, you know. But I don't know, 9, 10 bucks for one of those games, I think that's reasonably priced. Um, and then another point that I was trying to make, like it's today is so taxing to go back to retro games because you could start like a retro JRPG and then get, I don't know, 20, 30 hours in that game, and then the next week they're like, "Oh, we're remastering this thing. We're releasing it."
Hmm.
Damn it. I could have waited. Because you're like, what are you going to do? Are you now going to spend full price on that remake remaster and then also take the time to replay that entire segment again? No.
Well, I would argue even like you talk about this drip thing that they're doing, and you talk about the drip method that they're doing, and you're like, well, why are they doing the drip method? They're doing in PlayStation the same thing. Why are they doing the drip method? Because people are willing to pay full price for their titles. Microsoft doesn't have that, unfortunately. And like that, the only reason Game Pass exists, not because Microsoft thinks it's a good deal, is because they didn't have enough. They didn't have any first party games, so they're like, how can we have people buy stuff from us? Well, let's make a subscription service where it sounds too good to be true, and then we'll just put all our first party on it because we have no first party to be able to release that will sell enough copies for us to justify it. So let's just try to get enough people on a subscription service. So where in comparison, people will line up to buy a PlayStation game, people will line up out the door to buy a Nintendo game. They don't need to focus on that. I bet you if they had to, Nintendo would, and Nintendo could make a better subscription service than either probably PlayStation or even Microsoft, because they have the back catalog to back it up with. Whereas, like, I think Sony has some of it. I think, but the probably part of the issue with Sony is they have some first party, but a lot of some of their biggest hits are second party titles. Like Final Fantasy VII is not a first party Sony game. It's made by Square Enix, right? Or like I could go on and on, but what I'm trying to say basically is like Nintendo and Sony don't focus on them because they don't have to, and because people will line out the door to buy their titles. But speaking of
I think, yeah,
remasters and
that's
remakes,
true.
there is a remaster Evan purchased and showed us early on the show that was released the day of. And then there's a hard copy coming out on February 22nd, and that is Metroid Prime. This was
Prime
literally
time.
this is literally like a week after I just got a copy for GameCube. Speaking of rough position, I'm like,
Oh man,
but
how
fortunate
much did you pay for that?
it was free. I was fortunate enough I got it for
Oh, okay.
free. So it's not that big of a deal. But I just
Before
found it
before
funny.
before we get into this, just a quick note because I think it relates to the previous topic, and we can discuss it in this one as well. Um, uh, Nintendo and PlayStation also can do something smart. Like we're complaining about the drip feed, but I think they are also complementing their future releases with it. So on Nintendo's side, we're speculating that there's going to be a brand new Metroid Prime relatively soon in the next 12 months. I don't know. I would assume from this point. So they are building it up, you know. So this is why we don't have these remasters, re-releases whenever we want, or these additions of classic retro games to these services when we want. Like, because we are like, why can't you just throw 200 games in there? You know, like
Hmm.
have a lot of choice, and they perhaps know their timeline, like for in 5, 10 years from now, and they know that they are having all these reboots, remasters, remakes coming up. Are like, okay, we are going to add these titles on these services to increase appetite for these series and interest and see how they do, you know. Um, that's I think that's a valid tactic they are applying. So yeah, onto this surprise remaster, which I thought I said it on Discord. I thought it was just like upscale textures. Like now it's I don't know it's 720p or 1080p, and that's it because that's how they've been remastering these games so far. At
Oh,
least the
the
Wii,
3D Mario collection, Mario
the
3D All Stars
Mario.
is horrendous.
Yeah,
It was like they didn't
yeah,
do any work on that. They just threw
such
a bunch of games into a
such a
package and said
wasted
that they yeah,
opportunity.
it's bad.
Evan, have you ever looked at that Mario 64 thing on the DS where you can play as multiple characters and all the graphics are redone? Do you know
Oh,
that
I've
thing?
watched a video on someone who's big into the like I don't know, like Nintendo fan, like retexturing and
Oh,
bringing old school games to HD. He's into that retro scene, and he was showing like Nintendo couldn't even do this, and he was like comparing like what fans have done with Mario 64 versus
oh,
the shitty
yeah.
job
But
that
I
they
mean,
did
like
with the it was
that was an
awful. They
official
didn't do
release.
anything.
That was an official release. Like they basically remade Mario 64 for the DS, and it looks so much better. And that's just stuck
Right.
there. Like why not
Yeah.
why not work on that? Like play as Wario, play as Yoshi in there. Like insane. So I'm disappointed, but at least like let's hope this is them changing things, not doing that ever again. They really remade a ton of assets in that game. Um, yeah, I also had like I think I bought Metroid Prime 3 for the Wii to play on my Wii U like a long time ago, and now I don't know what to say. Um, I may consider getting this one on the Switch. I do hope they are going to bring the other games as well because that's something else Nintendo doesn't do. Like they just for instance the Mario collection that's just Mario Galaxy 1.
Right. They didn't even like why stop there?
Yeah,
Mario Galaxy 2 is the bookend to the 3D collection. And then they haven't even released it since. It's so weird. So yeah, like you're saying, I think when you're hearing about a Metroid Prime remaster, you might not be expecting a lot given their track record. However, from what I've heard, it's a very, very nice looking game, like borderline remake quality to it. And I'm excited because I never owned a GameCube. I've never played the Prime series. I
That,
s-
that was going to be
I
my
went
next question.
completely
Has any of you
yeah.
played the actual original Metroid Prime? Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say this is tempted of me buying it as well because I've never played the Prime series either. Um,
Yeah. I
I'm
will
st-
I
I'm
will
still
say
debating whether I actually like buy the new remaster or just play the original from my GameCube.
people say
yeah, I
this
mean,
this one is better than the other two. Like
I think the stick controls sound like they're better too.
it seems like they've done a better job with yeah. I heard at least from podcasts this week that it controls it exactly like you think like a first person game should control in 2023, which is good to know.
Because they had the
I will
C
say though,
stick with the GameCube controller, and I think
oh,
that was an
whatever
issue.
it is, yeah. I if I had a GameCube and I had played the original game, I don't know if I'd buy this for $40. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
Like and I think this is an important point. One of the pulls for me is because I haven't played the game,
Mhm.
so $40 doesn't feel like a lot of money for a game I haven't played yet.
It's
If you're
fair.
in the other, if you're in the other group where like, it's kind of a remaster. Do I want to
I
spend
think
$40 on a game I already played? I don't know. I know it's a
I
great
think
game.
it makes sense. I think it makes sense for them for the other side as well because Metroid is such a tormented series. It doesn't seem like it deserves a lot of love um from
I mean, it
Nintendo.
doesn't
It
get a lot of love. I think it deserves it personally, but
yeah.
I'm glad it's $40 because I think when I originally
Mhm.
saw that, they've been
Yeah,
pretty
they've been pretty full
iffy.
pricey.
Yeah, yeah, they've been very full pricey on previous releases. The last game I remember um having a decent price was the port of Tropical Freeze to the Switch. I think it was $40. But since then, they've been charging full price for a lot of this stuff. So it's nice to see them pull back and go at least $40. I know it's like faint praise for Nintendo, but like that's kind of what you have to give them when it comes to pricing. I know it's sad, but that's where we are with the company.
Now, before we get to the giant elephant in the room, I do want to ask you one question because you both have very contrasting differences about this specific title. So I do want to bring this up in the conversation. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is getting a new DLC wave that will feature party member Masha and more on February 15th. Now,
Oh,
Rafa, this
and more.
and more.
And more
And
is the
Rafa, this is your Game of the Year nominee from last year. And for
Yeah.
Evan wanted to put this down faster than a hot pan of bricks.
I've since completed the game, but it will be without a doubt my most disappointing game of 2023 at the end of this year.
Um
Anyways, I know. I'm
yeah.
sorry, Rafa. I don't.
No. It's totally understandable, and I gave this. I apologize to Evan because I'm the one who dragged who dragged him into this. I'm numb to bad gameplay and level design. Anything else, if I enjoy the world building, the story, I'm like, yeah, that's shit, but I want to see what's coming next. Like even to this day, I I I can agree that it's it's pretty crap, but I don't feel it. I haven't felt it. I and there wasn't a point in those 125 hours where I felt frustrated with the game for wasting my time. Somehow I got used to just wasting my time with games just to see the story, although I I should not, I should like just look it up on YouTube, but then it doesn't feel earned. Um, and it's
Oh,
also
and
because
Mitch, just for a bit of information for you, Rafa put in 125. I beat the game in 79 hours. I did a Mitch, and even doing a Mitch, it
yeah.
took 79 hours. But yeah, so you can see like Rafa basically played how many more hours than me?
Uh,
45 more hours than I did,
yeah,
which
45
is
hours.
He put in a full
Because
crazy to
title. You put in a full game more than you
yeah,
did.
and it was
squeeze in a
organic
couple
for
of
me.
yeah.
It was organic for
Sorry,
me
continue.
because um, uh, I was finding all these new places, and I was like, oh, there are people here as well. Like, let's talk to all of them, see what they have to say, what they need, what quests they could. And um, early on, I could see how doing side quests affects the narrative, the secondary narrative of all these other colonies, and I was all about that. So I organically did as many side things as I could to advance the story and get the most out of it. Which is why, like for instance, Evan, you said you got stuck in certain places and had to grind, and I didn't really. There were places where I was gonna like, oh nope, I shouldn't be here now. But other than that, I didn't have like problems with progressing. There's a section in the game where it's like this open world area. They give you a boat so you can explore it. And I was like, holy shit, here we go. This is yeah. Now the game begins, and so many things, so many things
I
to
went
explore.
on that boat. I went directly to main mission, and I didn't fucking search any of that because I got that boat like 60 hours into the game. Like, I am not spending 40 hours in this area. Well, okay, Rafa. Actually, I have a hard out in like 10 minutes. So the main thing about this direct was not the DLC that's coming out now. They hinted at the final DLC, which I think is like borderline unforgivable. I don't know if you guys remember, but Asura's Wrath.
Hmm.
At the end of that game, there is no there is no end to the game. They cut the end of the game off, piecemeal sold it to you as DLC. In
That's
order
right. I
to
remember
see the
that.
end of that
Yep.
game, you had to purchase DLC. Anyone who hasn't played Xenoblade Chronicles sees that little trailer and thinks, "Oh, okay, there's something going on here, some big battle." But it is paramount information
The
to the
trilogy.
entire story of these past three games, Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3. And it's like the whatever happens in that DLC ties everything together and
Uh,
probably is like the ultimate ending. Look like something like Blasphemous. They released the ultimate ending, but it was free. Wounds of Eventide was free, and it added context and it wrapped everything up. It explained stuff that people had been pondering about the game because it's a bit esoteric, like Bloodborne. This game is basically saying if you want the real ending to the entire trilogy, guess what? You have to pay extra for it. And I cannot get behind that. I'm like super pissed because you see Shulk, you see Rex, you see Elvis. You're like, this should be in the game. Why is this DLC? This is really. Imagine if you got to Sephiroth at the end of the Final Fantasy game and it stopped, and then you had to wait 2 years, and then like part 4 of Final Fantasy Remake was just the final fight with Sephiroth for like $30. That's what this feels like to me.
yeah, I can see where you're coming from. For me, it makes a bit of sense they did that from a narrative structure, because you've got like two stories in the first two games, then it's one story in the third game that does something with those two stories, and I feel like they are going to change because each game has like a completely different gameplay system that makes sense to the world. So it's tied into that world. There are narrative reasons why you don't fight the same way you fight in the first game, you fight in the second game, and I feel that in this DLC they they again because the combat is so tied to the narrative context, and you have all these free contexts coming together. I think they are going to do something different because um, uh, looking at the story DLC for the first one they introduced with the remaster version, looking at the story DLC which was almost its own game for the second game, um, they were like meaningful additions. So I really look forward to that. Like um, I can see because I too expected like, oh wow, so th this third game should be capping it. There there were parts of what I expected it to be, but I think like they wanted to give to the third game the same space they gave to the first game to set the context of the story, the characters and everything, so they can really make like a standalone impact with this story DLC. I do agree they could have like just shortcut it and put all this at the end of the third game, but for
Or
some it
like
could have felt rushed. Um,
right, Xenoblade Chronicles 4. I guess, Mitch, to wrap this up, because you're like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. For context, Xenoblades 1, 2, and 3 are all connected.
Hmm.
There's something that happens at the beginning of a timeline that has to do with everything that's been going on in this entire series, spanning since the Wii or whatever. And Xenoblade 3 offers no loop back at the end of that game, at least from what I remember, into like this is how this connects and
Hmm.
to the other games, or showing you a bit of the other characters in the other games and how the timelines all converge and all that stuff. It's very, very vague. And then all of a sudden, hey, guess what? DLC Part 4, we answer all your questions. Bye. And for someone who probably invested 8 million hours from Xenoblade 1 to Xenoblade 3 to have to cut that off and charge them extra for it, I think is pretty shitty.
Yeah.
I have to go. I don't know why I always look at my watch. Starting March 31st, April 1st, I will be unemployed for 6 months. So I actually have to get some paperwork done right now.
Yeah, good luck with that.
All good.
Yeah. See, man, I wish I could talk about the pricing because come April 1st, $70. I don't know if I can. I'm gonna have to go on the cheap for 6 months. I don't like it.
And it's for your sequel to your favorite game of all time. I guess
Oh, man,
final word before you walk away. Will you pay full price for it? We'll get to that topic.
Tears of the Kingdom. Oh, yeah, I name a price.
Do you have those tickets in Japan?
Huh.
Do you have those like 2 games for one of those tickets in Japan, like on the store? Because you could buy one of those and get like, two first party
that
games.
weird deal that they have, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it makes more sense. It doesn't make sense at $50 or $60 game, you know? But
Yeah, but
as you
I
get
want a
closer
physical
to that
copy.
ticket.
That's my
Oh,
problem.
yeah. Okay.
Final question. How much would you ever be willing to pay for this title? Like, say it wasn't 70, say it was more. What's the most you would pay for this title?
I would pay a 1994 Super Nintendo Final Fantasy 7 or 6 price of $70, which is like the equivalent of $120 or whatever it costed back then if you balance for inflation.
Well, that is I will tell you that is more balanced than it is on Kind of Funny, where someone said they would pay $1,200 for the title. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
This isn't eBay. What are you talking about?
I know.
It's
And
the economy.
so that is all I need from you, Evan, my friend. Also, it is very interesting that we are so famous as a podcast, gentlemen, that we got asked the magical question, which you do not have to answer, and I'm not asking you to answer it, but I'm just going to put the question out there from Plague Destroyer. Would you ever consider playing Dog Farts Legacy? We are so famous, we got wrapped up in the scandal when we're not even talking about it.
Is that a game?
No,
Yeah,
he's saying
like-
Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh, Dog Farts. I was gonna say I'd play Dog Farts Legacy.
All right,
And,
Evan.
Sounds pretty good. All right.
it-
Yeah. Shout out to Tears of the Kingdom, Game of the Year 2023.
Yeah.
It's over.
Whatever. Just get out of here.
Mitch, please accept it.
Go and get
Weapon degradation is here to
weapon
stay.
degradation.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
I'll
Take
be
care,
looking
man.
forward to watching the rest of the episode. Have a good
Catch-
day.
Yeah. See ya. Yeah.
So getting
Hogwarts
to
Legacy.
that, I was gonna say,
Is that
What?
a game based on the Lego Harry Potter games? Hogwarts Legacy? Yeah, I think it is.
yeah, it's totally made by the Lego guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. The property totally made by Lego. So let's get to the actual topic at hand, which is Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. It was rumored beforehand that the accidental price leaked on the pre-order store that it was going to be $70, and then it got taken down within an hour. So then people were like, oh, maybe it's a mistake. Maybe they didn't mean to do that. Oh, maybe it was just a store accidentally doing what they needed to do. Oh, no, hell no. That is the price of this title. This title is $70. Nintendo did come out with a statement saying, not all our games will be $70 going forward, that it will be dependent on the title. So, Rafa, is this crazy? Like, because sorry, I didn't mean to, but I'm just trying to say, like, this console's been out for 5 years now, going on 6, and we have paid no more than $60 on the game. And it's running on hardware that is as old as the PS3 in regards to like capability. It has like PS3 capability, if not very light tier PS4, Xbox, Xbox One
Yeah,
capability.
it's definitely more scalable because it supports Unreal Engine 4, and that
Yeah,
helps a great deal.
but it's still an old hard piece of
Yeah.
hardware. Like to justify $70, is that asking too much?
Um, so I'm to understand how I feel about this, of course, I can only look at myself, and as a consumer, I have bias to certain series, and there's stuff like Red Dead Redemption 2, which I would have paid, and I think I did. I think I did because I got the Ultimate Collection and everything. Not the Ultimate Collection, not Ultimate Digital Collection, whatever. And I also bought that game twice, once on PS4 and then again on PC. I like that's a lot of money, but I was like, this is my game, you know. I I have to have it. I have to have it at lunch. Then there are games where I'm interested in them, but I'm not like big on them as I'm with the games I'm big on. So I acknowledge like this will be fun. Look, everyone is hyping this game. I know it will be fun. I know I like it, but I haven't liked it prior because I haven't played other games. And they slap a price of like 70, $80 on it. I like because I don't have memories or nostalgia or assurance that I'm going to go into this and get all these references from past titles and anything. That feels like a big ask for me because I want to be part of the conversation, but the price of admission is higher. Even though I know I will have a good time, like I'm not an established fan of this series.
Hmm.
Having the first Breath of the Wild at 60, and actually I actually got it a lot cheaper because I was back in Romania at that time, and I played most of that game on the Wii U.
Mm, gotcha.
Um,
I think
and
it's
only there.
$50 at the time, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah, and also because at that time, like I don't know, things have changed since then, but there's not like this gaming culture back there, like at least in what concerns the store experience. And there are just games laying there because people aren't as informed as in the West on games. So that was really discounted. I was like, no, I think actually like making the conversion, I think it was less than $30 maybe.
hmm.
It was dirt cheap at release. I thought that was a steal. Uh, and playing that and going through all the mechanics and seeing how minimalistic the experience is, how discreet it was. It wasn't holding your hand. You were discovering things. And to this day, GameSpot puts out those videos. Like, sure, like I would be willing to pay like even 90 pounds at lunch just to get more of that. So I'm sold on its value. I know I've been there. I don't want to hurt the industry and like, oh, Rafa said 90 pounds. We should like make all games expensive because they'll get their audience. But for some people, it makes like it's irrelevant. Because now you're making a game 200 pounds or dollars all of a sudden. Then like then even if you're a massive fan, you're like, that's a bit too much. You're ripping me off. 10, 10 bucks more. It's not that big of an ask. Like you have all these like you can look back at the past month and look at your spending bill and you say like, oh, this month I ordered so much takeaway. I'm feeling guilty. I should have trimmed that on it. Like
Hmm.
maybe I don't know, order less takeaway in 1 week. And you can put it elsewhere. Um, so this is where I'm coming from. This is like you could make an argument that everyone is getting on the bandwagon of raising the prices, and some games do it even though they don't have like an established legacy of being good. and you can it's blatant. You can see that they are only doing it because they can, you know. Um, but yeah, I think it differs from person to person. And yeah, like if you can easily like wait maybe a few months and get a deal on it, like you can find it like 20 bucks cheaper. Um, yeah, that would be my point.
Yeah, that makes
That why.
sense. Uh, I mean, I would say for me, it's making me pause. I'm actually kind of shocked by it. Um, it's $60, a little more lenient. Um, but if you're asking me to pay something I would pay for a higher quality title, and when I don't mean quality as in regards to like fidelity or things like that. I'm just talking about what the games can do. Um, when someone asked me to pay like $70 for something like God of War Ragnarok, where I can have, you know, expansive worlds with multiple different kinds of. Well, actually, probably God of War Ragnarok's not a good example because you can buy it on the past console. Let me try to think of one really quick. Let's just say, um, shoot. Let's just say. We're trying to think of a title at $70 that we haven't seen yet. Let's just go with gosh, why can't I think of a title that's exclusive for next gen hardware? Um,
Um,
well, let's just go with Jedi Fallen Order.
Returnal was, I think it was exclusive, or
Yeah,
is that not?
yeah. I don't think it's a good example of
And
what
it
I'm
was.
trying to think of, but I'm
Um,
just what I'm trying to say basically is like Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild is a good game. It is not a great game. It is not a perfect game. It is not a masterpiece of a title. It is just a good game. Probably more along the lines for me is a proof of concept that had to be released as a game. Because what did it have? And I've been on the record for this for years. And it's not that I'm a Nintendo hater. I'm not like a I'm not a fanboy of any kind. I like good games. I want games to be the best that they can possibly be. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild had barren environments, enemy types that were very samey, extremely samey, lacked variety. The combat was basic in some of the most epic way possible. Like there's just no variety to the combat. So then when you explore it and then do combat, it's two boring things because you're running around a dense world with a completely barren world with nothing in it, and then you run into a group of enemies that are the same group of enemies you ran into in another barren environment you ran into, and the combat is the same. Do I love the experimentation you can do with that title? Absolutely. I think there are some really cool things you can do that I think if you go into any game you can do as well. And that's why games have systems to play with, to be able to use, and gives players freedom in certain aspects to like try things and do things outside the boundaries of what you're meant to play in. Do I find the shrines exciting? Yeah, I did find those puzzles pretty good. Um, those were probably the highlights for me, was doing the different shrines, and some of them were really good and some of them were just like and doing the gyro controls kind of pissed me off a little bit at times, because when I'm trying to spin around, I found myself sitting on the floor trying to get the gyro controls to work correctly, because I had to reposition my entire body because the gyro controls weren't functioning as they should. And that's an indication on the hardware in the game itself. Like, the game had problems. Um, so like I think
yeah.
it so like that, I think it was fine. I think it was a good title. Like I think they had some good things in it that I enjoyed, and they had a lot of problems.
Yeah, I can agree to the criticism. It was basically like it was all level design but zero presentation.
Hmm.
They they cut that out completely, and then there are some memories that you find for some reason I never stumbled across them. I was shocked. I spent 120 hours with that game, and then find out from Evan. Yeah, there are those memories, yeah, and there are these cutscenes.
And,
Cutscenes. Like,
and the
this
memories
game
weren't
has
even
cutscenes. What?
the memories
Yeah,
weren't even good. Like that's the even worst
yeah,
part. It's like
and it's like four of them, maybe, because
yeah,
it's one
four
for
of them,
each.
and the plot made no sense. Like the plot made no
Yeah,
sense. Like this, you have an interesting story to tell, and you're not telling a story. Uh,
yeah.
to me, it was like the worst version of a Dark Souls game you could ever get in regards to narrative. It's like it's set up for like a Dark Souls type narrative, yet it has none of it, and so therefore you don't feel as satisfied. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is like that title was okay. I'm getting same vibes from this one. Now,
Yeah,
do I
that's
get improvements? I feel like there's going to be improvements, and I do see that. Like I see some acknowledgement of like it looks like it's going to have a bigger story. I could be deceived though. It's a trailer. Um,
yeah. We need to wait on that one because yeah, as you said, like if it's the same thing, it's barren worlds all over again, and not that much of the story. We'll have to wait for previews. But I think if it rights the wrongs of past games, the past game where it had like lackluster presentation and very little, uh, story and all that jazz. I think if it corrects these things, then you can look at a more a complete proposition. I do agree with you that it's like it's a bit weird to pay that much for a game won't run that well, you
right.
know?
Yeah. No. No. And so like to kind of like
Because
because
you
like
expect the bare minimum,
yeah.
like at least it should be stable, but it won't be.
Well,
Breath of the Wild wasn't. It ran. Here's the thing. Sorry, I'll let
no,
you.
you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
So the reason why I didn't say like, okay, this game is really good. I bought it for cheap at release. Like I could like take the cost and buy it for Switch. It runs worse on Switch because on Switch it has like a bit higher resolution textures and everything, and on Wii U it was at 720p, and it was like in the tech reviews and everything, you had like better performance on the Wii U. Um,
It's because it was made for
and
the Wii U.
because it was made for the Wii U, and yeah, like I played the demo for the Age of Calamity, and that like 25 frames per second, 20. I'm not a frame rate. I'm not that big on frame rate, but it's not enjoyable. Like
No, standard's 30
below
frames
20,
per second. You got to hit 30 frames per second on any title.
yeah.
That's just standard. You can't go
So
any
that's
lower.
where I have issue. If I really am to think hard, that's where I have issues with the pricing. Because I was on the record to say like I'm going to buy this, but I may just play it on PC.
I
You know,
mean, yeah, I feel you. I kind of like in your to your point about, you know, the quality of the title meeting the like do I see improvements? Yes. I still see some of the same problems I still see in the first game, and my concern is that the hardware won't support innovation in the title itself. Because you only have so much memory that you can fit these systems, that you can fit, and trying to fit new things. The thing to me is like, how far did they push the first Switch? Like for the first title, how far did they push the Switch's memory? Because if they push it to the point where, maybe they'll flip a feature here for another feature there, but if it's still the same, like if you're still just climbing around these barren environments because you don't have enough to load in enough enemies into the space, or you can't load enough textures into the space because it's too open world. I mean, we've already seen kind of its own making in the new Pokemon game where like it's just bugged all over the place.
Yeah, but the Pokemon company doesn't work with the Xenoblade company because that's where the magic comes in because actually they leverage the tech for the for Breath of the Wild, So I have a bit more confidence. They optimized the hell out of that game. So there may be room for some more things, but again, like we have to wait and see. We have to hear more about this game, to everything.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
they'll
just
probably do one of those directs where they go in full detail what this is, and I think we can have like a more clear picture of whether it deserves that price tag. What it's my disappointment comes from the fact that to this point I expected this to be like a next Nintendo console launch title that would, like they
see you
why
all were hoping on that, and I never was there. I never thought this was ever going to be the lead
I'm
up to
losing
a
hope,
new.
honestly. I'm losing hope, honestly.
It's not happening. Like no insider info here. It's just I don't think it was ever happening. I've said this on the record for years. When people have been talking about, oh my god, the Switch 2 is coming out when the Zelda, that's why it got delayed. It's like, no, Zelda got delayed because it needs to run on the Switch. Like that's the reason why it's delayed. Like that title, they're probably going to push that hardware to its maximum that it can ever be pushed because they're being overly ambitious. And like the first title was already ambitious as it is. And like I will say, even in the trailer, some of the stuff, it looks like it really hasn't changed that much. Maybe it's just a different type of environment. And like maybe they're going to do tricks with loading in new environments by having the sky and the floor.
Yeah.
And maybe there's going to be a loading screen between the sky and the floor so that they can be able to handle having two big environments as the twist for the game. Like I'm just trying to think of like what they're doing, and when I'm looking at the trailer, what are they doing to improve the title?
Yeah,
And I'm
because you
just not
you
sure yet. That's the tricky part. Is it looks
yeah, because
exactly like it did before with one feature that looks similar but different, and it's a power, but I don't know anything about it because I only saw it for 2 seconds in the trailer.
yeah, you expect these companies to like do the trailers in such way they showcase all this or they give hints to it, but most of the trailer was stuff that you could already, to your point, you could already do. The only big thing that I could pick up on is that now you have like proper objects to put together to create vehicles. Perhaps they saw people making all these inventions in the base game that were not intended to, which is why the game is so impressive because it's so versatile in regards to how you can interact with it. And they were like, okay, now let's add more components because I've seen like generators that can be activated and toggled, like with a button on them. I've seen
Well, I mean,
huge
okay,
propellers.
I'm sorry, I gotta push back, but have you not played Minecraft? Like it's just
No, no,
like
I mean
the only
I
reason
haven't. I
yeah,
haven't.
but the thing
Yeah,
is
but
like I only say that is because everyone and I'm not trying to put you in that crowd, so
yeah,
that I'm not trying to do that. But
yeah.
everyone just goes like, "Oh my god, look what you can do with this game!" And it's like, have you played any other game that does it better than that title? Like it's like as if here's okay, the layer on the floor
I
for
mean,
me
Minecraft
is like
doesn't have like a physics engine, like it's all
but
fixed.
but
So it's
like my
yeah,
thing is like everyone is putting this Breath of the Wild thing on the highest pedestal of all the land because it does everything
yeah, I know, but
average. And like the only reason why it's good is because it's Zelda. And that's so unacceptable to me. It's like I don't care what the damn name of the game is.
yeah,
Like you need to excel because you are a like the title excels, not the name of the game is the reason why it excels. Like if you could do everything average and then the name is the reason why everything is a little bit better, that is total BS to me. So like every time I get that argument of being like, "Oh my god, look at the variety. Look what you get." It's like, "Have you played like Skyrim?" Like some of the
yeah, but
RPG
that's
elements
the
are way
thing.
better in
That's the thing.
Skyrim
Like
than this
I heard
game.
this argument before, but I completely missed out on Skyrim, and I keep trying to build the courage to get into that one, and I understand the comparison, you know,
Mhm.
uh, but it's still not a sandbox in that sense. Like it's a more it's a it's interesting in the with its own fixed, mechanics within it, that you can go in a village and kill everyone, like regardless of who they are. Like you could avoid entire quest lines because of things you do, and that's
Mhm.
interesting, But like Breath of the Wild it's pure sandbox um, gameplay. And there's not much like it to this level where, like yes, Minecraft is a good comparison, but then again, that's not I've seen people like creating emulators in Minecraft, and you can play them. That's impressive. I wonder if they are going now to make it so that you can actually do similar stuff. Um,
I mean, I just could name so many titles. I can name Banjo Kazooie. I can name Little Big Planet. I can name so many titles that do the same things with
You're
physics
right about
engines embedded.
Banjo-Kazooie. You're right about Banjo-Kazooie because I know in one of them, Nuts and Bolts, I think it
Yep,
was,
nuts
you
and
could
bolts.
also make your own vehicles. So
I
yeah,
just think everyone just gives it a pass because it's Zelda. And I get it. I get it. Your favorite game that you grew up on allows you to do this really cool thing you never got to do in the series, and it comes from a game that a different game that you enjoyed playing, and you're like, "But it's Zelda. I can
yeah.
do it in Zelda." That's great. But just don't you can't mark that as like, "Oh my god, that's
It,
what makes the game
it
so
sure
unique," because it's not.
it sure has its fan base, and people are seeing all these reference. For the record, when I played Breath of the Wild, the only Zelda I had played up to that moment was Link Between Worlds
Mhm.
on 3DS. So I had a bit of context on what that was. And after Breath of the Wild, I know I played like 10 or 15 hours of Skyward Sword on Wii U. Um, so yeah, I don't have that veil over my face. I can see why people like it. I can see why uh the IP uh gives it a boost, but in the same time, I feel like other games that don't have this IP that are inspired from Zelda also benefit of the success of being a Zelda-like and getting getting a boost themselves as well. Um, but wouldn't you agree?
I think yes and no. I think they just do it
Like indie
better.
sensations. Yeah, and they
So,
do it better.
but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the thing.
There's an
Like,
argument
it's
Nintendo.
okay. It's okay if like you're copying similar systems, but
Yeah,
if you improve it, of course you should get more accolades for improving it. Like, if it's like, how should I word this? It's like, yeah, yeah, it's great that you copied it and then did it better. It's up to the developer that did it the first time that was made the one to be copied and do it better to one up that one game that copied it and did it better. It's like you can't just sit on your laurels and expect the standard being like, but they're the first one to do it. It's like, okay, but how? It's not who first did it. It's how what have you done for me lately, right? The concept. Um, but yeah, I would say Zelda Breath of the Wild was my second Zelda game. I played a little bit of Spirit Tracks when I was a kid, and I never finished it. Um, and I've seen Ocarina of Time. I've seen a little bit of Wind Waker, but I've never played any of it. Um, so Breath of the Wild was my first experience. So it's an interesting concept going into Breath of the Wild being my first Zelda game, and just seeing how I felt as if it didn't match what everyone was saying. Like, oh my god, it's Zelda. Zelda's like
because
the greatest title, and then playing the old titles because I did later. Like I did play Ocarina of Time on my 2DS after I played Breath of the Wild. Um, and I've also played oh, what's the new one that came out on the island? It's the 2D one that's like it's a
oh, the Wind
no no
Waker.
no 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 at it's on the island with the giant egg. I forgot what it's called though. Shoot.
Oh, the remake, the visual remake
Yeah
of
yeah 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 yeah, that one. We know what we're talking
yeah,
about. That
yeah,
so I played
yeah.
that one as well, and I was like, now I get what people were talking about.
Yeah, because it's about those dungeons, and
I think
yeah,
it's
people
more
are
than about the
wondering.
dungeons. Like it's about the like dungeons, yes, one aspect of it, of course. But I think it's also like the atmosphere, the enemy types, like the combat. I could argue that the combat is more complex in those games than it is in Breath of the Wild.
Because that's you could make an argument on that because like th those games are much smaller, they're much more contained. They have limitations that help the level
Hmm.
design, whereas in Breath of the Wild, like if if that map was not that big, like if it was scaled down a bit,
And
so it
denser.
would and denser, yeah, like um it could be a cop out, a narrative cop out that they were like, oh, this is barren because of this happened, and this is
It's kind of
you
what
know
they
like
did, and it didn't work for me.
yeah. For me it was just the fascination with the physics engine, the fact that if I got an idea, I could execute it. That was like I wasn't looking things up online. I was like, okay, if these two things work this way, then I should be able to do that. And it happened over and over and over and over again. And for me, I think it was I like I must have played things in the past, but this was the first game where like everything was coming together for me. So in that sense, that's my appreciation with it. But all the other critics are valid. I do agree, and I think like ultimately this is where I stand, because I was thinking right now when you're talking, like I think that that's the thing for me. Like if raising game prices late in the life cycle of a console, when the the titles have already been struggling for a while to run on the system, it's and then I think because you have to make it so it's clear that you're pushing the system to the limits, and they may do, but it felt that the system has been pushed to the limits for about 3 years now, you know. So I think if you were going to raise prices for your first party games, uh, that would have happened like some years ago, not now, because we've seen games struggling at full price already, and now you're going to ask for 10 extra bucks.
Hmm.
Uh, of course, the Digital Foundry Tech Review could come out and I know this is a solid 30 FPS. Would that make it right? Perhaps that would give me more, like um, uh, that would give me some assurance that I'm going to enjoy this on the Switch. Uh, but then, like when the Last of Us came out on the PS3, and you could see how much that game was pushing the console, and I wonder what if they pushed for a $70 price back then with that game, because that game released at the end of the generation. Like, I wonder what would have been the narrative around that. Um,
Let me ask you this question about price. So they raised the price to $70 for this title, and the standard price for like a PS5, Xbox Series game is now $70. Does it actually change your thought of saying, you know, now that I'm paying $70 for such a, and I don't want to, and people are going to come after me for this comment, but for a lower quality type product, does it actually improve your viewpoint of how much you're getting? Super, like, does it make it feel like you're getting more value out of those uh, PS5 and Xbox Series games because they're the same price and they're of higher quality, so to speak?
I think it would be clear for me if these games would also be in the same genre, you know,
Okay.
because there's a certain things Nintendo does that PlayStation doesn't, and vice versa, but if say PlayStation came out with their own answer to Breath of the Wild, and it was this, like
I would argue that's the Horizon series. Is that not?
I mean, it's
Open
an open
world
world action
action.
adventure, but it's not a sandbox. Like I'm adamant. I'm
Could
I'm insisting with this. I don't think it's a sandbox. Like you can do certain, you can paraglide, like, but that doesn't make it a sandbox. It's still you don't have like
I mean,
this
is really hitting
this
up
you don't
hitting.
push ball,
Well,
you
is
don't push boulders, you don't solve environmental puzzles, you just interact with buttons and input codes. Like it's it's more hand-holdy. I wouldn't like I never.
isn't the machines in the environment part of the sandbox? Like an example is like I was hidden in a bush and saw two of the machines fighting each other, not from my own like interference, just from them fighting in the environment. Isn't that a living, breathing sandbox world?
uh, for me it's I don't know, perhaps from my point of view, Breath of the Wild has a lot more systems of interaction with the environment than Horizon did. So for me, like perhaps in definition by the book, the game is a sandbox, but then perhaps I see more value in the type of sandbox that something like Breath of the Wild is in terms of interaction, because I don't feel they are on the same level in terms of interaction. I, I understand. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think Horizon is that organic with its sandbox proposition as something like Breath of the Wild is.
That's fair.
Um,
That's fair. Um,
so yeah, like, but let's say, like, for the sake of the argument, so it's not Horizon, it's something else, and much better graphics, much better physics, more, like, because the system is far more
oh,
capable. Like it
easy
could
answer.
take,
Easy answer for you. Next GTA.
yeah,
That's a similar type of experience, sandbox style. That is Breath of the
yeah,
Wild.
for me,
They're both priced $70. Does it precede the value that you're getting more out of uh, because
that's
they're the same price?
instantly a lot more value, because the system is more capable, and yeah, I think that answers it, because you look at it like, because of the system you can do so much more, so
Does it make it easier pulling the trigger for that $70 for that game? Not because it's like your most anticipated game, but like just say
yeah.
like it wasn't and it's just like these two games, they're both $70. Does that make it easier to pull the trigger on like something like the new GTA because you're
I
like, oh,
think
it's the
even,
same price and this is better
what
value for
what
my
about the
dollar.
context? What, so I need to put myself in the shoes of someone who is not really into GTAs, but knows how big the series is,
Put your,
because then
just be Burkoff.
yeah, I think I would get it. I would get it because I know I would. But as I said, like, I think those games are worth more. Um, I think also when these companies price these games, they, based on their metrics or whatever, they also look at the fact that perhaps like more than half of their audience don't own other platforms. You know,
Mm.
don't have alternatives. We're hardcore. We own multiple systems. We can debate this because we can just go to the other platform when we're bothered by something on another. But yeah, like, and I want to be upfront with it because I don't want the viewers to think I'm a like kind of, I'm weird in that sense. Like I still currently I still struggle to get an answer to this. Like, when do I think $70 is too much? And I think I'm close to the answer. I'm close to the answer. I like, um, for me, this sequel, like, I want to play it. I'm not bothered by the 70 price tag, but the one thing I really want is for it to run well on Switch, because I don't feel okay with paying full price and then having to wait, like, a month or two until what's that, the shader cache or whatever for the emulator is available, and I can play it, because that's the thing. Like, you can't really do that at launch on, so I'm like, I could wait. I could also wait, maybe get a discount, maybe wait out for some eventual patches that make for a, yeah,
So final question. Well, it's kind of a two-parter, but
it's a struggle. It's a struggle to answer this one, because I find it hard to be objective,
that's okay.
I
That's
keep
okay.
trying to find ways, like, maybe if I have comparison with, because I also brought up the question of the genre. Like if I had similar things in other genres, again, personally, I can compare Horizon with past Zeldas in the sense that you're getting new tools, you can do new things in that sense, but it's not that organic. But if I were to have like carbon copies of the same thing, like different IPs. So it was the Sony's IP, it was Nintendo's IP, it was Xbox IP. Then I could draw a line. Like, yeah, I know it's Zelda, but
Ah,
they do it much better on this platform. So I think that deserves it more. If that would be easy. In
yeah.
in in this hypothetical scenario, I could easily say, like, yeah, they like Nintendo has this football game, but why would I play this football game that's limited by the when I could buy like a premium like soccer FIFA on, because you can
No,
look
yeah,
at
I
it
totally
now.
get you.
Like I think that this is the perfect example. You look at the past years, and they released legacy versions of the FIFA game. So automatically, $60 for a FIFA game on Switch from last year is not worth it compared to what you can get on a modern platform.
For
And
sure.
there you have it. There you have it. But Nintendo is lucky. There's no other Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom on other systems. So if you really want to get more of that Breath of the Wild experience, like most people will have to fork out the money. It will be worth it. Like in this context, like yeah, it's a bit more, but what can you do? Where
Final,
else can you go?
yeah, final two questions. Well, it's a one question, but it's a two-parter. One, what other franchise games do you think will go up to $70? And uh, two, what franchise are you willing to pay besides Zelda $70 for from Nintendo's lineup? So I think I'll start with them. I'm gonna go first on this one. Just
Yeah.
I'll
Because
give you a break.
I had my own yeah, I had my own monologue on
No,
this
you're
one. Yeah.
good. You're good.
Um,
I think I would not be shocked to see a new 3D Mario be $70. I would not be shocked. I hope not, but I would not be shocked by that. Um, I honestly think it's just only their big hitters. I think it's like the next Metroid Prime, probably. Um, New 3D Mario, probably. After that, I really don't know. I really don't think they have any other franchise that's willing to, get me. If they're going by their quote by saying we'll take these on a case by case basis, like if they put a new Mario Golf game out there and it's going to be $70, I'm not paying
yeah.
it. I'm never going to pay
Yeah.
it. I love the Mario sports games. I have a bunch of them. I will never pay it. Don't expect me to pay it on my wallet. Ain't happening. Like I bought Strikers, the new Strikers. Biggest waste of my money. I felt
Mm.
burned again from Nintendo in regards to quality on the title. Usually their quality is pretty good on their sports titles. Like I really love their tennis title. Um, but I can't justify paying full price for their sports games anymore. But
They
those
don't
are
have a meaningful progression system. It's
meaningful
like
progression. They don't have enough like on out of the box like what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, you have to be playing online from the start of the game. It's almost like they released Splatoon for all their Mario games. It's like you have to play online for it to be worth your money, or else like the solo stuff they give you isn't worth your time. Now, the golf one, I'll argue, is actually a little more robust. It has its own like story and all that kind of stuff. It's simulated golf story a little bit, which I kind of liked. But like the tennis one was very basic in its like main storyline stuff. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is any mainline thing. So I'm thinking Metroid, Zelda, and Mario. I think those are the only three things they could charge like full
and
$70 for.
and for me, but also objectively to this list, I would add Animal Crossing.
You think they would charge? I guess that's true. It did sell a
Yeah,
boatload
that I mean, after
after the
after how
pandemic.
big
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it received a boost because of the pandemic,
I
but
wonder if
like
it'll sell as well next time around because of the pandemic. Because I know there was
yeah,
like a lot of interest, but there was definitely a big drop. Like I know there's still a community, and I know you're still farming.
there's
I
a
know I
community now
still you guys.
modding the game. Like they are modding the game on the emulator on the PC. They're adding new like that game co looks completely different. And, like,
Well,
of course,
I know you're still like still selling your turnips on the black market. I know that, and it's a thing. I could see them taking a shot
yeah,
at it. I just think it's gonna fall a little more flat, because they don't
it's
anticipate.
possible.
I think it's just not going to sell as well because of the pandemic. And so they're going to hit that and go, oh, shoot, we made a mistake at charging this too much. Um,
Yeah, that's where I feel I know they'll do it. I don't think it will go that well. I will buy it. I will buy it. But
any other franchises you think are going to go to 70? Do you think the next Xenoblade Chronicles will go 70?
I think
Or
as
Pokemon?
as much as I love that series, I think it's niche. I think it's niche. The Xenoblade doesn't track as high as their other properties. Although it has some word of mouth, what's that called? Velocity
Hmm.
to it. Um, I think what was the other se Pokemon? I think people will flip out because you've never ever in the history of that series you didn't take the time to change the sounds of those Pokemons. You're carrying those sounds from the Game Boy or what it was. Because I tried, I looked into it. I wanted to be part of the hype, part of I it's there's nothing for me in there. There like other than having nostalgia for there's not it's such a lackluster series. It's shocking and
It is
seeing how
unfortunate how Pokemon has kind of left the fans. Like
like
it's like I didn't leave Pokemon, Pokemon left me. And that's really disheartening as a fan.
and to this point it's not even like a business strategy like optimizing resources or
No.
anything. I think they just don't have the talent to do more. I
Yeah.
think that studio is just a lot of old people who
Mm,
just remain there who
no, I
like
don't think that. I think it's more of the concept of, what sells, and they're able to, the reason a reason why they're able to have such high turnarounds for these Pokemon games is because they're using the same systems. Like when you introduce new systems, it takes
it's
longer
FIFA.
for development. So like it is FIFA. It is sports games for animals. Like
Yeah.
that's literally what Pokemon is. The only reason why it takes a little longer is because they actually take a little more time to like actually change more. But the basic system of like the most complex part of their system, which is the battling and the finding and catching, is all done already for them. And they can do small iterations and grow. It hasn't grown fast enough, and that's the problem.
Yeah, true.
I think actually in our conversation, I've changed my mindset on like to answer my own question, which is actually I think they're going to charge $70 going forwards for any major franchise. I think it's going to be Xenoblade. I think it's going to be Pokemon. I think it's going to be Mario, Zelda, Splatoon, anything that is like a first party high tier title for
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Mario Party, I could see them doing that as well.
Be-
Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros, any of those titles, I will see them charging $70 from now on. What I
because
hoped they would only charge
okay.
for are sorry, I'm almost done. What I hope they only
No, no,
charge
no, no,
for
no.
are just the top tier, to in my opinion, the top tier, which is just your mainline Zelda, your mainline Mario, and your mainline what was the third one I was gonna say? Shit. I forgot what the third one was. Mario, Zelda.
Pokemon?
No,
No.
we already shoot.
Xenoblade? No. Animal Crossing?
Nah,
No.
but anyway, and then I just thought of Pinkman 4 right now. Like I think the only reason why they're
Yeah.
charging $60 for that title is because they already announced it.
Yeah, that's the thing. And because
But
later on,
I did hear they cut out pre-orders though. So maybe they are going to charge up to $70 now because they stopped pre-orders on that title.
really,
Well, like I heard
um,
people that pre-ordered the title before they actually got declined and then had to re-pre-order the game. But let me look up. Um,
yeah, and then there's the thing, because then you know you increase the price on some of the first party premium games, and then you don't on others, and then uh
Okay,
from a business.
$60. It is $60. I feel like they put the pre-order up sooner, so I feel as if they only did that. They're only, doing it because of that. Like they can't
um
upcharge now. It's too late.
they don't want to cheapen the perception, to make people think that, like, as you said, if they're making, they can just make a part of their games 70 and then the other stays at 60, because then people might think like, are you not putting in the same effort in these ones
Mhm.
that you're. So they categorically they'll have to go up with all of them. And for their sake, I just hope there's a new system around the corner, because
Well, I think the final thing, just to like wrap this up, and I just remember the third one. The third one was Metroid. Um,
okay.
but I think another reason, and I think people are just kind of losing this part, is why they're charging $70. When was the last Zelda game? It's like 5 years ago, right? Right when the Switch came out. The development cycle of
Uh,
this game is as long as a AAA title on a PS5 or a series game, and the issue that comes into play with that is you have to pay these employees for that amount of time, and
yeah,
the
yeah, that's
resources
also.
and the
Yeah.
costs that it goes into testing these titles and things like that. It's expensive, like unfortunately. uh
And you have some, yeah, and they have the money, but they also have some targets for their investors and
mhm,
everything, and you want to keep the profits up, so
yeah,
you have to continuously adjust. So maybe internally in the
and
beginning it was a $60 game, and they were like, no, we need to make it $70. It's more acceptable today. Perhaps they wouldn't have done it years ago because that wasn't that much of a thing. So they feel like they won't upset people too much with this.
yeah,
Um,
my only concern is, and I guess we talked about it earlier, I was say it lately, is like, with that much development time, if we don't see drastic improvement in other areas of the gameplay, then it was money wasted, obviously, and so then they feel like they have to charge it to be able to get the money back. um And that could be one way. And I'm not saying that is the method of why they're doing it. It's just something I thought about as like a potential method of reason why they decided to charge $70.
So are you saying that they may have tried to put more into the game, but it won't make the cut? So
Yeah.
they need to justify the time spent on those features that, like, yeah, that's actually a great point, because we assume that development is this linear thing, which is not.
Hmm.
So sometimes the consumer on their end is being taxed for
For the time
internal
wasted.
costs that,
Not
yeah,
not necessarily wasted as in like they
yeah, yeah,
just things that didn't go into the title that they spent a lot of time, research,
yeah.
development. Like these titles take time. And like they are reusing some of the systems and some of the assets to be able to build this title, which has reduced the time so they could focus on trying to implement new systems. But for all we know, they probably couldn't make it into the game potentially. So like that could be another reason why they charge $70. Like it's another reason they could, not necessarily is the reason, but it's just something that crossed my mind.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's a great point that I never considered, and I will consider moving forward with all games, regardless of the platform.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think in hindsight a little bit of like, maybe it's taking them long time to do this title compared to past ones is because, like you said, they're pushing the Switch to the max, and they need that extra time to make sure they are pushing it to
Yeah.
the max. Um, because maybe in hindsight, this could have been done in like a 2-3 year cycle because of the power of the hardware, or 3 year cycle, instead of just a 5 year cycle, right? Maybe that extra 2 years was used to make sure like we're squeezing every inch we can out of this thing, and we're not leaving any stone unturned. So, well, that seems to wrap us up in general. So,
Yeah.
thanks everybody for joining us on Pixel Pints. We are the only global gaming podcast who covers great beer and video games. Again, follow us on Twitter at pixel_pints. Know when we go live on twitch.tv/pixelpints. And then you can follow us on Instagram for cool little vignettes and stuff like that. But as we always say to end every podcast, obviously, Rafa, thanks for joining. It's nice to seeing you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, don't say that. You're welcome anytime. It's not like you're just like, I'm free this time. It's like, sweet. Let's get you on the show.
Yeah.
So, as we always say, and we're out.
We're out. This was we highlighted things that because this conversation popped up. Oh, this new series is now $70, and I feel like we really